Yogi, traveler, wisdom teacher, and the founder of 21st Century Yoga. Our guest today on the Settle or Be Better podcast is Mr. Manish Pole, who will be guiding us through choosing the right yoga practice for ourselves. So over to you, Manish. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your yoga story?
Namaste, Sakshi, and thanks for having me on board. I've been teaching for the last 20 years, and when I first began at the age of 22, I used to be an advertising copywriter just briefly before. And I always joke that I shifted from deadlines to a lifeline, because that's essentially what yoga is. It's a
Right.
lifeline. It's becoming even more important in today's day and age where
Absolutely.
everything is virtual and the real world connection in a age of artificial intelligence. Yoga is true wisdom.
Absolutely. Rightly said.
Over the years, I've had the chance to teach in multiple cities. When I was young, I wanted to be a traveler. Yoga allows me to be a traveler today, and I specialize in the wisdom of yoga, which is in high demand simply because yoga asanas is ubiquitous, but people are
Right.
very interested in the wisdom behind it. And it's a rare privilege to be able to offer that to people across the world, to be able to interpret the culture of the ancient culture of my land, and to be able to make a living doing that in modern times is a responsibility I don't take lightly, but it's also a privilege that I'm very grateful for.
That's absolutely amazing. So, one of my first questions, moving to the discussion of yoga, is among so many forms of yoga that people are teaching, that is Ashtanga Vinyasa Yoga, Hatha Yoga, Iyengar Yoga. There are so many options available. So, how does one determine the right yoga practice for themselves? Like, where do we begin as a starter for a beginner?
So you got to first ask what it is that you want from the subject. Now, for me, I wanted to improve my focus as a writer. So
Right.
therefore, I think of yoga as focus training. So for me, classical yoga, it's the spot.
Mhm.
For
Right.
somebody who wants to get fitter, Ashtanga Vinyasa will get you there. And then over a course of time, it will make you more meditative. So remember, all the forms of yoga are just the starting point. For a person who's been doing yoga for a long time, it's getting them to the same places. It's just that do you want to approach through your mind, through your body initially? Iyengar yoga appeals to a kind of person who's different from an Ashtanga practice, different from a Hatha yoga practice. So first you got to just know what you want to do. Second and most important in my opinion is to find a teacher who sees yoga like you do. No two
Right.
people will see it exactly the same. And therefore, if there are 100 people doing yoga, all 100 will have their own yoga in a certain way. The
Right.
way you see it is important. So a lot of the times you might begin because it's convenient, it's close to home. But in today's age, you have access to teachers across the world. You just have to see who you vibe with. For
Right.
me, if somebody is telling me that is going to improve my flexibility, it's interesting, but it's not something that is really going to, is not, I'm not going to wake up in the morning wanting to do that. But
Right.
what appeals to me is this ability to improve my focus, to hit states of silence within. Therefore, classical yoga works. So for a student who understands the way I'm speaking about yoga, they will learn with me. I
Right.
I cannot teach everybody. I'll teach a niche. Somebody who's
Right.
interested in hitting silence daily becomes a student with me. It doesn't matter then what am I doing? Am I doing this form or yin? There'll be days I'll go slow, there'll be days I'll go fast. Essentially,
Right.
I'm teaching yoga, not a particular style of it. And
Understood.
that is important. So you got to find what do you want from the practice,
Right.
then find a teacher who speaks that language, and then start the journey with them.
Right.
In a
Right.
broad context, fitness would be Ashtanga Vinyasa. Maybe a little bit of Iyengar could be to slow you down a bit. Yin Yoga if you're very high stressed. But
Hmm.
essentially, these are just, the differences are marginal when you get the subject of yoga.
Right, right. That was really well explained because that is one of the issues, when someone wants to get into yoga and with such a wide variety of options, one actually doesn't know where to begin. So
That's
that
right.
was really well explained. I've actually never heard about it that way before. So that was amazing.
Thank you.
And, when it comes to fitness in general, so resistance training, functional training, and yoga. So how does one weigh these options and get into it?
That's an interesting question again, Sakshi. In fact, your first, second, both the questions are superb. The answer that I always give is if you're thinking, should I do resistance training? Should I go running? Or should I do yoga? I would say do resistance training, do running. There will come a day when there is no option, when I have to do yoga because I want to know who am I. Then
Right.
that's the right day. Till then, you can do whatever you want. Yeah. This is the way I see it. But to make things simpler, I'm sure you understand, your audience will understand what that
Right,
means.
of course.
There will be a day you'll wake up and you figure, all this is fine, but who the hell am I? Then there is no question of resistance training or anything else. It will be yoga. It's the oldest subject study into questioning who am I as a human being for the last 6,000 years. There's no comparison. If you want to
Absolutely.
compare it purely as an asana class,
Hmm.
if you want to think of it as something that is a studio format asana class, in that case, yoga is beautiful because it gives you the strength that your body requires.
Right.
Now, and it also gives you the flexibility. A lot of the times people feel stuck. They may look fit, but they're not free flowing.
Right, absolutely.
Because yoga doesn't, the beauty of yoga is that you master the body to transcend it. Not that you're stuck in the concept of body beautiful and then it's a problem because you cannot transcend it.
Right.
So the study of the human body, the study of the human mind is unparalleled in the yogic context. If you have a choice, do yoga because you can do it till your dying day and it will give you insights into the way your body functions and not just how to make my muscles stronger, but what is my nervous system? What does my breathing do? It's too profound and too deep, and that's why I don't even like to compare the two.
Absolutely. I mean, it's totally getting back to your roots and, like you said, discovering yourself through it, not just a form of workout or just meditation. It's a whole integrated part of being, I feel. So that was great. That was very insightful. And you personally, do you or did you earlier include any other form of exercise as a part of your training, like weightlifting or functional training, anything apart from yoga that you also included?
Not really. I mean,
Okay.
every now and then I'll do some. I don't really run. I used to play football. I don't like the
Okay.
idea of exercise personally.
Okay.
I think one's life should be active enough.
Absolutely.
I love dancing, and
Oh, that's
those
lovely.
kind of things I love to do. Every now and then I will do some push-ups. I may do some squats. Uh, I go trekking a lot. What I find is when I go trekking, people come up to me because I trek very fast. People come up to me and they say, "What do you do? Do you do marathons? Do you do a lot of training? How come you're trekking?" And it's actually the breathing because
Right.
once you know how to breathe, it's pranayama,
Right.
and you have
That's
a
true.
clear mind through meditation. You're in the moment. You're very fit. So fitness is just your ability to breathe efficiently. So
Absolutely.
you get that first in yoga because your awareness of breath is so high. So I don't do any other form of exercise because A, it doesn't appeal to me, body, mind, spirit. Uh, in the 1 hour that I have to train all of me, I don't get that fulfillment from any other thing. This idea that you send your body to the gym, you send your mind to the library,
Right.
you send your spirit to the temple. Internally, it doesn't exist. There's no distinction between body, mind, spirit. Yoga is
Right.
the only one that addresses all of that. So I'd rather just.
Absolutely. That was great. And how many times a week do you think that a beginner should start practicing yoga? Like a complete beginner to yoga, and once they
I would
find the right
say
teacher, yeah,
I would say minimum 7 days a week. The
Right.
reason I say that is, yeah, actually, to answer the question in a practical sense, 3 times a week to begin. But I would always say minimum 7 days a week because you're trying to find out who am I. In that process, I am just a collection of neural circuits. Now, those neural circuits, the way they are wired, makes Manish the personality. Now I want to change. If I stay for 48 hours, that means I practice every alternate day. By the time I come back to the mat, these have gone back to the way they were. So I'm
Right.
not really making a change. Flexibility, yes. If I'm interested in flexibility, once in 2 days is enough. If I'm interested in strength, once in 2 days is enough. But if you're interested in knowing who you are, then it's a daily process.
Absolutely. No break from that once you begin. That was great. And like back pain has unfortunately become such a big issue, and it's a very common issue, unfortunately, within the working class because of the lifestyles that we lead or the jobs that we have. What do you recommend? What kind of a regime do you recommend when someone comes to you with that sort of an issue, or in general, who wants to stop the progression of back pain, particularly?
Yeah. So the reason the back is paining is because it's telling you something about your lifestyle. So first analyze that. Now, A, we'll do a few asanas to ease the pain. B, we'll ask people to do a lot more pranayama. The ability of the prana, life force in you, has been compromised, and therefore it's reflecting as pain or disease. When you have that vitality, maybe your grandmother has arthritic pain or something, but when she's happy, she forgets her body. She
That's
can
so
even
true.
do a little bit of a dance. She can jig, she can do a jig. You've seen that when she sees a grandchild, she'll be in joy. So
Right.
that happiness is very important. Now, of course, there are some physical things that we'll overcome through certain asanas. Then the ideas. Yeah, I believe I have a backache and I continue to have a backache. I
Right.
understand that I am healing daily,
Right.
makes my body heal. It is not the body can take care of itself. It has enough intelligence. It's made me this from one zygote. It has enough intelligence to handle itself. I just need to get out of the way. Now I'm in
Right.
the way with my lifestyle. I'm sitting on the computer 12 hours a day. I'm not moving. I'm eating bad food. And therefore, I personality Manish needs to change. So I change my lifestyle. I eat smart. This is not rocket science. Everybody knows how to do it. You
Absolutely.
just have to, mm, make it important that you are in a state of health. So do a little bit of pranayam, do some asanas, find a nice, purpose. Okay, if I'm healthy, I can serve my family. If I have that as an idea, I will take care of my. If I don't really have that as an idea, and I'm just waiting for the weekend to kind of binge or something, then my health is not really a motivating factor in my life. But
Right.
if
That's
I have a purpose, those people will stay, their immune system improves, their health improves because you being healthy and not suffering a backache, there is something to be healthy for.
right.
That's very
Absolutely.
important.
Right. Right. That was beautifully put. And I think comparing, yoga as a lifestyle versus any other form of exercise or something that we would do as a cure or a healing method for any sort of a pain in our body, it's so different because, like you said, it begins from within through the mind, right? In yoga, and apart from that, if we do,
Not in yoga, in reality. It's
yes,
it's
right,
really interesting, Sakshi, because today's studies show that say when you have a backache, the back is
right,
not feeling the pain. The pain is being felt in the mind, in the brain. It's an
right,
electrical impulse from the back, and the pain is being perceived 100% in the brain. And this is why you have placebo effect, right?
right.
When you give a person a sugar pill, even placebo surgery works. This is ridiculous. So some say you have a
That's
tremendous backache, you go in for a surgery, You think you've had the surgery and you think you're healing, but actually the doctor has done nothing. He just made two sutures and stitched you back. But you heal.
Right.
It's got nothing to do with the surgery. It has almost nothing to do with the medicine. It is just your own belief and you can rewire. Now that has to be so strong because the pain is being felt here in the mind,
Right.
and therefore you can manage it. Somebody with little bit of pain may be crying, and somebody with tremendous pain may be smiling. It comes down to your attitude to life.
Right. Right. That's true. That's very true. And obviously, in any other sort of a recovery method, there are high chances that, it can come back. Any sort of a pain might get healed in that moment and come back because we didn't really work towards the root of it. And, it's not changing it for once and for all. It might as well have a chance to come back and you are inviting into your life again by doing the similar lifestyle activities. So that's very true. I mean,
You're so right, Sakshi. There are no quick fixes. You got to go to the root.
right, absolutely. And generally, like when someone says yoga, Surya Namaskar is something that always come to the mind, at least for me also, or for someone who does not know as much about yoga or is not as experienced. But how much do you think should we focus on working on Surya Namaskar as a movement in yoga asanas practices? How much importance should we put on that, and how often should we practice it as a beginner or at whatever level of yoga that we are on, asanas particularly?
So a little bit about the history. Surya Namaskar was first described about 120 years ago. In the classical text, the medieval text, there is no description of Surya Namaskar. So we don't know how old it is. We feel that this is the way people in the mountains, when they woke up, when they saw the sunrise, it is a natural and intuitive movement to harness the sun, solar energy. So we don't know how old it is. It is the most ubiquitous part of a yoga class in modern yoga. It is very beautiful because it brings you into a flow state. Now, this flow state, the whole world is trying to get into a flow state, whether they're doing it through mind work, breathing, dance, poetry, anything. If you're in a flow state, that's considered peak performance. In my own experience, there are days I start practicing yoga where I'm a bit dull, maybe I've not slept too well or something. When I start to do Surya Namaskar, after about 10, 11 rounds, I start to smile. Not I, a smile starts to come. The body comes in rhythm, the poetry begins. The body mind is in rhythm. So when that happens, boom, you're there. Surya Namaskar is so powerful because if you get the breathing right, it is as though your body, mind is in prayer. It's not really an exercise, it is all of you in prayer. When I say prayer, I mean it as a peak state.
Right.
Sometimes you need to run 5, 6 kilometers to hit that. In Surya Namaskar, in 5, 6 minutes, you're hitting that. So it's great, it's very effective usage of time. All the muscles get movement. When that movement comes, the lymph moves around. It's great for the immune system. So if you can do Surya Namaskara, 11 rounds is the minimum for general well-being daily. If you can do about 21 rounds is good. Once a week, if you do 108 rounds, and you know that your body systems are functioning well.
Right. That's lovely. That's a great way to go about it and understand how much importance should we put on it and how much should be included in the yoga practices. That was very well explained. And coming back to your practice, so what does your typical yoga practice look like? Like how much percentage of it is breathing, how much is meditation and movement? So are these three aspects a regular part of your practice every single day, or how do you go about it?
Every single day, they are all three a part of it. A lot of my practice is breathing. So I begin with breathing exercises. In the morning, I spend an hour in practice. And then after that, I sit in meditation at least 3, 4 more times during the day. But my morning practice would begin with breathing, then would include some Surya Namaskars, some asanas, headstand, Naukasana, all the asanas that I like to do on a daily basis. And then I sit in meditation. And then after breakfast, after lunch, after dinner, before I go to sleep, I do meditation a lot, which is the thing that I enjoy a lot. And typically, watching the breathing is what I thoroughly enjoy. So my practice is I think of Surya Namaskar, think of asanas as breath in motion and meditation as sitting with my breath. So breath would be the pivot. After 20 years of teaching Kriya Yoga inspired Hatha Yoga, I find that the reason that I like breath so much, I find that a lot of spiritual traditions and systems require belief. For example, a lot of systems require you to believe that you have a chakra system. You may never have seen it,
Right.
but
Right.
because the masters are saying it, you say, okay, I have a kundalini, I have a chakras, but you may never have seen it. A lot of spiritual religious systems require you to believe that you have a soul. You may never have experienced it, but you have this feeling that you have an afterlife, there is karma, there is another birth, or there's heaven or hell. They all may be
Right.
right, but it may not be your personal experience. Whereas with
Absolutely.
breathing, that's your personal experience. It requires no belief. You can just watch your breath and watch and watch. And when you hit that silence where all this becomes quiet through those practices, then you don't need anything else. So, this is why I like breathing so much that I don't need anybody's inputs, any belief system, as beautiful as they may be, but I can pivot it on breath.
Right. That was amazingly put. And like, I have had the opportunity to meet you in the past, and I couldn't help but notice how calm and centered you are. And anytime someone would have a conversation with you, they can see how aligned you are with your purpose, and you know what your calling is. At least that's what I feel when I talk to you. So how did you come to this realization, and how did you find your calling finally? Like you said, at the age of 22 years is when you started venturing into yoga. So how did that happen?
I To be a copywriter was a dream job for me during college, and I became a copywriter when I was 21 in an agency. And I found that it's not really satisfying me. It's not as creative as it's made out to be, or sometimes you're writing smart lines to sell some products, which
Right.
didn't really appeal too much to me beyond the point.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, I lost a dear friend, and that was a good lesson for me that life's too short to be doing anything that you don't really enjoy. And life's too unpredictable, so you might as well do what you really love. I love to travel.
Absolutely.
I started to explore that. My mentor was phenomenal because I could live with him. I lived with my teacher for 7 years, and I trained and I got to teach people. Soon I realized that teaching is a beautiful experience. You're sharing what works for you. The respect that I got as a 22-year-old. See, those days, people who were coming for yoga were 45 and above. I was half
Right.
their age, and there's no reason why they should accept somebody so young as their teacher, but they did. That respect
Absolutely.
was very, very beautiful. That was one. Then the fact that I could travel the world anywhere. There are very few jobs that allow you, if you want to go live in the Caribbean by an island by yourself, you can teach there because everybody wants to improve their body mind. Or you want to go live in
That's
the
true.
biggest city in the world, say you want to go to New York, you can teach there. There are very few jobs that allow you to do that, where
Absolutely.
everything you study is value. Now, if I study to be a lawyer in India and then I want to go live in the UK, I have to restart. Whereas with
That's true.
yoga, every single moment is study into who you are. That's invaluable. Soon I started to realize that people around the world are interested and they want to improve. And I studied psychology when I was in college. Yoga was a natural progression from there. I always say that psychology is a beautiful study of a sick mind, and yoga is a beautiful study of a healthy mind.
Healthy mind.
Yeah,
Right.
it's very different. It's one
Absolutely.
yoga in its true sense is a continuation from psychology. Without psychology, I couldn't appreciate the beauty of yoga, and it would have been a physical
Right.
drill for me. But having done psychology, the next step is obviously to study the subject of yoga. and then to share that with people across the world. It became my purpose. And honestly, I can't do anything else. you know, as much as you know, I've been asked to do consultancy and many different roles in the wellness
Right.
space. The satisfaction you get to be with people, instant appreciation you receive back on an hour's work, the joy you find in
Right.
people. A lot of jobs, you get that gratification at the end of the year, or
Right.
sometimes you never get it. With our line of work, it's immediate. So this fuels one's purpose in life.
Right. That's true. And what aspect of this life do you like the most? Like, is it practicing by your own, like your own training, or do you enjoy teaching more?
Both actually. So I love practicing by myself, and I also love teaching. I don't feel completely satisfied if those two don't happen in a day. I may be able to go a few days without teaching, but no
Right.
days without practice. So I need to do both because I can practice and be really relaxed. But I began to understand that you can be comfortable and peaceful doing your own thing, which is beautiful. But if you have a sense of empathy, you will have to share. A friend of mine, about a year and a half ago, I was having the most blissful time about a year and a half ago. I was spending a lot of time in nature, practicing,
Right.
just very beautiful. I met a friend of mine who was 24, and he told me, Manish, we think that your generation has screwed it up so badly for us. And that's why we are inheriting a planet that is unhealthy, we're inheriting stress levels that are so bad. After maybe 10 years, somebody's criticizing me for something. He's speaking about my generation. And
Right.
it got me thinking that you can be calm, chill, relax, all of that, but without empathy, without understanding that there are people out there in corporate life who are struggling for the silliest of reasons. Yeah.
That's true.
Just get your sleep right. How tough can it actually be? Get your food right. We have so much of research. You don't need to do the chips and coke. Get your, the simple things. What I had stopped sharing with people because I thought it's too basic to even talk about. I got a reminder last year. And therefore, teaching has become a big part once more because I have the personal practice by myself, but
Right.
without teaching, I don't fulfill a purpose.
Right, that's true. I feel like your students are really lucky to have you as their guru and to learn from you and have be in the same room that they can share the energy with you. So that's really amazing and I hope to do that someday too very soon.
Sure
And
thing.
that was very insightful, Manish, because I think that this episode has helped someone or the other in some way because getting down to the first step of, where do we begin with yoga? What do we do for fitness? All of these things were way too simplified by this episode and through you. So thank you so much for that. Thank you for gracing our podcast today. Is there anything that you would like to leave us with? Any thought, any suggestions?
Firstly, Sakshi, I'd like to commend you on this effort. You're doing something that's really beautiful, and to be able to make the effort to reach out to different professionals, to get them on board, to share wisdom. Maybe you don't yet realize how valuable it is, and I'm waiting to hear from you when somebody, when you're traveling, something reaches out to say that your podcast, whichever it is that you have done or other things that you do, has changed their life because you're doing something very beautiful. And I'm saying it with great respect.
Thank you. Thank
That's
you so
one.
much. I'm having goosebumps while you're saying that. So thank you so
It's
much.
beautiful. I have all the time in the world for efforts like yours. And the last thing that I would like to share with your audience is that life is simple. It is so simple that you just if you wake up every day with gratitude, 150,000 people die every day. For some reason, you and me and others are woken up today. This character, Manish, has no role in that. The cells in my
Right.
body don't even know my name, but they're thriving. If I just don't, if I just step out of the way and stop thinking that I own this organism, if I have that humility to know that, okay, there's magic happening and part of that magic, just manage the
Right.
basics well, life is super simple.
Absolutely. That was very well put, and it was an inspiring episode, definitely. Thank you so much, Manish, again for gracing the Settle or Be Better podcast. And I hope that you spread this love and magic all around the world and keep doing that. And I hope to take a class with you very soon sometime. So thank you again. I'm Sakshi Pawar. I'll be your host for Settle or Be Better podcast. And stay tuned while we bring more inspiring stories your way. Thank you.
Thank you.
You know the drill. Subscribe to the Settle or Be Better podcast, like, share, and comment on our videos. And oh, hit the bell icon because you don't want to miss the mind boggling health discussions we're about to bring for you. Why settle when you can be better?